Happy Saturday again, everybody. What a long week. Sore losers. The ugly, the genetically retarded, the followers of a pathetic cause too high to truly admit. You are the losers. So is your family, maybe a lot of your friends too. Bask in the inescapable truth, for no matter how hard you try, that very fact will never be denied. Never exercising, you instead choose to hate other people for their achievements. I can be jealous too, but that was in high school. And as an adult approaching 40, I've learned there are a lot of mature losers. Men who are 45, yeah, cannot fathom losing to a person with poor hygiene, even though Asmongold has the top spot, the top position on Twitch. Hasan was given that spot from terrorists and Antifa alike. The left is full of losers, and he is very much one of them, telling his chat that black fatigue is the code for the N-word, even though a lot of Caucasians have experienced more racism in their lives than a lot of black people in North America do, which is a sad reality. You know, I know not a lot of people like to hear that. That white people win or they speak up for themselves. Society said that they were the oppressors, and it's okay to both morally and legally, in some instances, treat them poorly, get violent against them. Exclude them from opportunities, job opportunities. In schools, and make fun of them in films and like that. That one movie in the UK with that kid, and it's like, oh look, they're so violent. It's that white rage, man. In my previous video titled Hassan Starts World War III, I exaggerated that with his endless hysteria, he would embellish terrorist Muslim inbreds to commit a hairy jihad against Israel, India, United States, and pretty much everywhere that there's cultures contrary to his beliefs. Ah, Hassan. Now, with his own media corporate entity turning against him, the walls are closing in. Ad revenue on Twitch is on an all-time low. So for Hassan to possibly lose some of those left-wing contributors would deal a decisive blow to his unibrow. A forest of chin hairs coalesce to create a mighty neckbeard. Thus he claims himself to be the king of the losers. Shout out to Rehab Room. Oh, and by the way, I went into the trenches. I watched the Rehab Room video twice, right? I think once actually. It's just like, they're so similar. Like I hate to say this, but like inbreeding is a thing where you think that people are individuals and stuff, and they very much are, but like their mental temperaments are so parallel. It's almost like you can easily predict how someone's going to act or what they're going to do next. Like, the outrage. Like, he's like sneak dissing me and saying that, like, video game addiction is bad or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, game addiction is bad, but to be fair, I mean, it's very profitable, and like, we're living in a world where, you can make a lot of money, not just playing games, but like, reviewing games, talking about them, modding for them, even making, Like, I don't know if I just said that. That would be funny, because it's like getting the sands of idiot from talking about Hassan. But it's just like you know the funny thing about like Rehab Room and Hassan, which is like cousins from another inbred mother, is like, why don't we use the word retard or retarded anymore? Do people born of consanguineal marriages get so offended that they need special protection like minority groups such as Sikhs or homosexuals? Seems like it, because after living in Brampton for nearly 10 years, all these things become fact. There is a concerted effort to dismiss and hide the large-scale abuse of children done by Pakistani men from Punjab, see the province. in Pakistan from that is Punjab, which also that like has Sikhs and Muslims in it. You know, so there is ignorance to the countless sexual assaults against children done by Sikhs with repeat offenders for this very same crime. So like, you know, these people, like, you know, they don't learn from their, like, you know, mistakes, and like they'll just constantly, you know, do this on repeat, you know. There is an incel problem here in Canada, and right now they outnumber us. They voted in Carney so we can allow more fraud student visas in from Punjab for cheap labor. Mostly done because they're probably thinking, like, you know, there's a slight chance that there's a girl that could come from there that can marry. No, it's mostly guys, dude. It's mostly guys. They're so fucking screwed. They watch as Jewish people get assaulted on the street, stalked, harassed, threatened. How do I know this? Not only reading and watching articles about it online, also because it happens to me. The child pedophile grooming gang, which has ties to the bikers, to access narcotics like fentanyl, stalk, harass me, follow me in their vehicles, rapidly flashing their headlights, you know, to get my attention and stuff, and, you know, blind people. So like, it's such a wide scale problem that they're willing to just like operate, you know, in plain sight. And this is very much the state of the United Kingdom right now, where you have, like, you know, gangs running certain streets, no-go zones, like, you know, kebabs and barber shops, you know, specifically, you know, to funnel money from these, like, you know, devious acts, you know, child grooming, prostitution, selling of narcotics, you know, drugs, all that shit. You know, it's just, and it's you know, becoming more normalized here now. So before it happens in America, like, these are the things to look for. But, you know, the idea of losing their monetary cash cow of selling date rape drugs to men must be insane when you realize that I'm the guy who's pointing it out. You know, like, this guy with, like, you know, just looks weird and stuff. But I think, like, it makes sense in the grander scheme of things, because when you understand, like, like the fundamentals of subterfuge, right? Being able to hide in plain sight. So, like, just dress like everybody else, act like everybody else. Don't have a personality, and, like, therefore, you know, you can blend in very easily. And that's why they hate, like, not just me for being different, but also me for being, like, unapologetically myself, right? Where they're just gonna conform to this fake wannabe gangster, you know, lifestyle of, oh look, we sell drugs, we victimize women and stuff. And it's gross, right? Like, you have to, you know, that's why I said it's important to be vocal. Show the world the pedophilia of Punjabis, and how their culture of pre-adolescent sexual assault is wrong. They feel emboldened to do as they please because many of them realize that love is hard. So where they come from, right? And they need, like, dating websites and, like, you know, their families, you know, arranged marriages. They don't want to talk about it, but, like, that's the reality. A lot of these guys get to a certain age, like, they're kind of, you know, how a car is when you get into a bad car accident, like a write-off. So, like, kind of like that, you know, because it's like, you know, where they come from, they had the belief that women are like possessions and stuff, and, like, if you have enough money or whatever, you could just have one. And it doesn't mesh well with the modern internet age society, because it's like, as far back as, like, Chris Hansen, all the way up until now, like, basically nothing has changed other than censorship. Like, from what I can remember, I think pre-COVID, like, the internet was, like, pretty open and vocal with talking about this problem, right? You had, like, you know, pedophile poachers in Canada, and you had, like, you know, UK 22 or something like that, PP or something like that, like, pedophile poachers also over there, and they were actually, like, you know, having a lot of progress, and then suddenly, boom, everything gets censored. Nobody knows what's going on, and now we're talking about this grooming gang scandal years after the fact, but it's still an ongoing problem that is even happening here in Canada to this day. You know, it's just crazy. Because it's like I guess it's because the reason that Andrew Tate loses is that he acts like an inbred when talking to his like money supply. So he basically like emulates their kind of behavior and tells them what they want to hear and stuff, which is why like I kind of support him because he's the only type of person who can convince these like otherwise lost people to do something with their lives. You know what I mean? Right? But like when you see the youth idolizing Tate though, it's cute, kind of funny almost. With like young men, you know what I mean? Like people more his age, right? Like recently there was like these two twin brothers or brothers, right? Like and then like one of them was just I don't know, made a lot of money drop shipping or something like that. And then it just like spiraled downward really fast. But what I can like salvage from that like nightmarish wreck was like people like are sexually attracted to these people. You know, like they're sexually attracted not just to like the money that he has, but also like the image that he portrays and stuff. You know, that's why it's like it's kind of like telling of like how people had like porn back in the day, and then like they grew up with it, and then they see guys like Tate as like their heroes because these are the guys who were like giving the videos when they were kids and shit. Yeah, when a lot of them turn a certain age, they really look it though, a lot sooner than most, like the kids nowadays, well, people compared to me, like people half my age and like 10 years younger, they look a lot older than they should. In fact, I would go as far as to say that and I'm not bragging when I say this, I'm just pointing this out, right? I look a lot younger than a lot of people older than me, right? Like, I mean, sorry, younger than me. I got mixed up. Damn it! I need my inhaler. I've been talking for like forever, making this 25-minute long video, talking about this shit, sore ass losers and shit. Hasan was freaking out on like his Twitch channel and stuff. Thank you for that little break, commercial break. Now, where was I? Oh man, these scripts are so big, man. This is like fucking 10 plus pages. Yeah, so can you imagine though, like how many bottles of or tubes of hair dye Hasan uses to hide his gray hair? Like, yeah, like the the dissociative personality disorder, right? Or like, what episode of Rehab, will air. Well, he aired yesterday, talking about like parents and stuff, about if you had like the right parents and all that stuff, and it's just like, it's not so much self-improvement. Sometimes you need something like, you gotta play video games, like, and you can sneak diss me all you want, but I'm right. Men are doomed at a certain height according to Rehab, really. But sometimes I see beautiful short women, but they're just too small for me. Like I'm like, I'll be dating some kid, like, you know what I mean? Like even if they're attracted to you, and like they're smiling at me, like what the hell, I don't wanna like, give off that vibe, But incels complain too much. They burn their receptors out from, countless years of porn. Like I'm no different. Like I watched some porn, maybe a lot to some people, but like, I can understand that like if you do too much of that, it will fucking mess with you. And people are going to downplay what's happening on the news with the Jewish diplomats that got shot in Washington D.C. Now, to comment on this, what I will say is these people were being gassed up, and this isn't going to stop. And the best thing to do is don't make yourself a victim in a public setting. Always travel in large groups, and unfortunately, you have to be seclusive to said groups because there is a likelihood that, the larger of a group that you have, the less people, the likelihood of something, bad happening. Maybe you can even trust everybody, and it could just be that like their device was like hacked or something like that, and they're just like, it's one of these things that like I'm trying to tell my other fellow Hindus as well too. Like you just can't trust people. You cannot trust. Like even for Hindus, I say it's worse. We can't trust our own fellow Hindus because what if they're lying? What if like they just hate you or like whatever, right? Like there's so many reasons why your fellow Hindus will turn on you and hate you and stuff, and you cannot trust them. Right, so it's a very very tumultuous time, and like CNN is like pretending that the song sung by these like I'm guessing these are the rebels or the freedom fighters or whatever they're calling themselves that took over South Africa. This song to kill the Boers, kill the farmer. It's just it's historic. It was made to like commemorate some apartheid stuff. Just give me a break, man. It's just bullshit. Like nobody sounds like wants to put people in a box, or anything like that. And then they cry racism afterwards. They're just like acting like that. Let's just kill them, bruh, bruh. Like, dude, they're making faces and all that stuff. And it's not racist to say that like this is scary shit, But like these are the losers, right? You sided with stupid masses of idiots that have historically, like people have warned us about this when his like societies and like like populations of the world gets too big, you're always gonna have like these kinds of like stupid masses of idiots, right? Philosophers warned us in the past. They predicted when society grows too big, the masses of uneducated, uncivilized people will steer their nations into ruin. We are seeing this play out in real time. The UK is dying. Crime is becoming a daily trend in North America. Russia is bleeding from within, trusting in their former Soviet era Muslim brothers only to get stabbed in the back by them, all whilst waging a war against their white blood brothers over land and resources. Such pitiful and pathetic losers, always ignoring the hairy unibrow camel in the room. Where has that led them? Where has that led us in reality? Would Hamas have attacked Israel if Russia and Ukraine weren't at war? Some reports state that Russian hackers disabled security networks to allow drone strikes on perimeter surveillance cameras. I saw this footage, actually play out when they were just dropping these bombs and these like, little like camera posts along the fence perimeter and stuff. Yeah, it was something, I guess. Would Yemen, with Luffy and the Houthi pirates, attack ships if if the war in Israel wasn't happening? Yeah, probably though. They probably would. They're just using it as an excuse. They're gonna do it no matter what. Would Pakistan use terrorists to attack tourists in Kashmir if there was a certainty if Russia which is India's ally, wouldn't retaliate? Because it's like, they're busy with the war and shit. So they're just like, hey, you guys are busy with that war. Sounds like a good time to attack that Kashmir, Pakistan scammed America into sending aid and money over there. Thanks to President Trump, not anymore, Trump's the best, lad. Like, no more aid for Pakistan. Pakistan like lost half their country, you know what I mean? Losers gotta lose though. Even lost over half of their country to their fellow Muslims. Balochistan, a large territory formerly of the Pakistan nation, now split and rich in resources. That's interesting. Hasan, having literally made a fool of himself in front of the entire world, much like BSP, this is how you do not do politics. But then there's the lovable and legendary game designer and Nintendo employee, because he makes Nintendo games. Sungrad! Yeah, that's right. Can't be an Azure video without mentioning him. Ah, poor Sungrad. Looks like the Switch number 2 can't run Monster Hunter Wilds after all. Looks like I was wrong. Got cursed by Sungrad, then I realized, what's the curse all along? Went out and cursed everybody just by mentioning their names because I'm winning. Sungrad can only insult the PC version of Monster Hunter Wilds since my PS5 version is too cool. Runs at a silky smooth 30 frames per second. And those graphics are so good. So good I'm having a seizure. That's how you know it's Japanese. High quality products for high individuals like myself. Ain't that right, Sungrad? Yeah, boy, ain't that right? I'm one of them high rolling individuals. Yeah, if I say so myself. Yo, dude, he's got like Azure tuxedo with a little gun pinned on his like near his breast. See you trying to sneak this me. Everyone's coming at me. Azure sneak this me. I see what you man. What you trying to do? You see, like, who needs reality when I have game controllers, and I'm asking you, Rehab Room, can you handle Monster Hunter Wilds? An action-fueled dragon hunting game with tons of different weapon and armor combinations? A game so great, it brought back Legiacris to come back even though he debuted in a Nintendo console. Oh, poor Sungrat. It must suck being a loser who develops for and supports Nintendo, a company with loyalty only to Japan and not you. Ah, good old Nintendo. Hold your horses there, partner. That switch to hardware is a good old boy, but he can't render like he used to. What's with all them newfangled rendering? All them, all them shit you talking about down here, Sungrass? You all know Switch, your hearing ain't right. What the hell, though? They just right there. That's why he's trying to insult Monster Hunter Wilds, Sungrad. Oh man. Out of jealousy, even though those delays on the Switch meant that Monster Hunter Wilds was fixing to get a Nintendo release. But I guess the Legiacris is for us Sony ponies. You Nintendo dorks have to go game on your last gen console. And don't get me started with that rehab room. I bet that one guy who donated in his chat is representing the whole lonely Punjabis. They don't have to worry about. Oh man, fuck all this, man. We have 2 minutes. But anyways, so Hassan is going out of his mind. He's calling Asmongold the cockroach because he's a loser. Right? Like this is a pure loser tactic. Like you're older than this guy, you're more like set up and like whatever, but you lost to him, and you can't admit to your defeat because you are the aforementioned losers in life. You know, I can't believe I made it 25 minutes, like talking, but you know, it's just funny to see all these people suffering to the very bitter end.